Hello and welcome back to World 360. Why are African leaders visiting Ukraine and Russia? Did the US Secretary of State backstab Taiwan? We answer this and more in today's episode. So first up, African leaders and their peace initiative. Last week, African leaders from 7 countries on the continent met Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky and Russia's President Vladimir Putin as part of their efforts towards constructing a peace initiative. It was a high-level delegation headed by South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. Other leaders included presidents of Comoros, Republic of Congo, Zambia, Egypt's Prime Minister, and a former Prime Minister of Uganda. In an exclusive story, we at ThePrint reported that heads of BRICS countries, including PM Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping, were informed that this delegation would be visiting the warhead zone as part of a peace initiative. So let's look at what this African delegation sought to achieve. In short, they wanted to urge both sides to use dialogue and diplomacy towards ending the conflict. More importantly, they called for the free flow of grain. As you know, Ukraine and Russia are global producers of wheat and grain, but ever since the war, countries in Africa as well as other parts of the developing world have not had a steady import of grain and thereby are facing acute food insecurity. The African leaders landed in Poland last Thursday. They then headed to Ukraine where they met President Zelensky and then Russia to meet President Putin. Soon after they left Ukraine, President Zelensky issued a strongly worded statement in which he said the African leaders visited Ukraine where only the peace formula was discussed and then visited Russia, which he referred to as a terrorist state. In his video message, the Ukrainian president reiterated that there is no alternative to the peace formula and that Russia must prepare to lose everything. Reports indicate that the African leaders had prepared a draft framework document of their peace initiative which listed possible measures like the pullback of Russian troops, removal of tactical nuclear weapons from neighboring Belarus, suspension of an international criminal court arrest warrant against Putin, among other things. A grain and fertilizer deal was also reportedly on the table. But if we talk about the ICC warrant for a moment, it is very significant. As you know, the International Criminal Court or the ICC has issued an arrest warrant against Putin, and that has created a lot of headache for South Africa, which is the host of the BRICS summit, which is going to take place in August this year. However, South Africa has been under pressure from the West to arrest Putin should he step on South African soil and attend the BRICS summit. South Africa has been pushing back against this and most recently provided diplomatic immunity to all leaders attending the upcoming BRICS summit. South Africa and many other African states have attempted to be neutral in the Ukraine conflict, but recent activity has led some to wonder whether they are leaning more towards Russia. For example, South Africa held naval exercises with China and Russia during the 1-year anniversary of the Ukraine war back in February and has been accused of shipping arms to Russia. But the main question remains, was the African leaders' peace mission to Ukraine and Russia successful? The answer is mostly a no, mainly because it didn't seem to loosen Russia nor Ukraine's position. Both sides remained reluctant to come to the negotiating table. Also, the African leaders did not produce any written peace plan. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov called the peace initiative very difficult to implement as well. However, this visit was also necessary as it raised credible concerns from African countries who have struggled under the ripple effects of the war, be it on food, fuel, or fertilizer supply. Also, it shows proactive effort from the African continent to bring Russia and Ukraine to the negotiating table. So far, China has proposed peace plans to end the conflict, and Turkey helped broker a grain deal. For our next topic, we're looking at US Secretary of State Antony Blinken's much-anticipated visit to China, during which he made some interesting remarks about Taiwan. If you recall, Blinken was set to visit China earlier this year, but it was postponed due to the spy balloon controversy. During his visit, Blinken met Chinese President Xi Jinping, Foreign Minister Qin Gang, and other top Chinese officials. This is the highest level trip by a US official to China in nearly 5 years. And this trip aimed to improve severely strained bilateral ties between the two countries. China watcher Adil Brar was quick to point out the difference in seating arrangements between Xi Jinping when he met the current US Secretary of State compared to when he met the US Secretary of State in 2015. Despite the strongly worded readouts issued by the Chinese and US sides about Blinken's interactions with various China officials, Xi Jinping did remark that China and the US made progress during Blinken's visit. But diplomatic rivalry aside, there is one remark made by Blinken that has created a storm, with many accusing the US Secretary of State of strategically retreating on the Taiwan issue and backstabbing the island nation.
On Taiwan, I reiterated the long-standing U.S. One China policy. That policy has not changed. It's guided by the Taiwan Relations Act, the 3 joint communiques, the 6 assurances. We do not support Taiwan independence. We remain opposed to any unilateral changes to the status quo by either side. We continue to expect the peaceful resolution of cross-strait differences.
In technical terms, this wasn't a backtracking of US policy on Taiwan. The US has shared a robust unofficial relationship with Taiwan since 1979, but it also follows the One China policy. Now, this policy is an acknowledgement of China's position that there is only one Chinese government, and therefore the US hasn't officially thrown its weight behind Taiwanese independence. However, Blinken's remarks do seem to be a change from US House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan last year that appeared to set a new status quo for US-China tensions, given Taiwan is a very sensitive subject for Beijing. Therefore, Blinken didn't so much as backstab Taiwan, but reiterated the US's long-standing position, which is the One China policy. That said, the timing of these remarks are awkward, especially when we take into account Pelosi's visit last year and increasing Chinese aggression in the Indo-Pacific. For our last topic, we're looking at how historical differences are affecting sport. The World Beach Games is an international multi-sport event organized by the Association of National Olympic Committees. This year, it is scheduled to take place in Indonesia from August 5th to 12th. However, geopolitical differences between Indonesia and Israel has cast a shadow on this event. Recently, Indonesian officials have been pushing to ban Israeli athletes from competing in the upcoming tournament. This is because Indonesia and Israel do not share formal diplomatic relations, and Indonesia has been a long-time supporter of the Palestinian cause. Indonesia has long advocated for a two-state solution to the Israel-Palestine conflict, and since the 1940s has backed Palestine. However, there are now speculations that Indonesia could be replaced as host of the World Beach Games if it does not end its boycott against Israeli athletes. In fact, that's exactly what happened in March this year when Indonesia was stripped of its right to host the 2023 FIFA Under-20 Men's World Cup. Could the same happen with the World Beach Games? And if so, what would that mean for Indonesia's image? As it is the Asian country which hosts the largest Muslim population in the world, is being accused of anti-Semitism, as its boycott is targeting mainly Israeli youth who range from 17 to 20 years old. It must be mentioned, however, that even though Israel and Indonesia don't share bilateral relations, they have shared cordial relations over the last few decades in sectors like tourism and construction. Also, in 2000, Indonesia removed all commercial barriers on trade with Israel, and companies in Indonesia and Israel began trading with one another directly. Therefore, it begs the question, is Indonesia's boycott of Israeli athletes in the World Beach Games more optics than substance? Thank you so much for watching. This is Pia Krishnankutty for ThePrint.